Good morning and welcome back to the vlog. We're here in Wewak, Papua New Guinea this morning, and my name is Ryan. We just finished loading up the Kodiak with around 500 kgs worth of cargo, so yeah, it's pretty full up today. So let's go ahead and get started and be on our way for a 35-minute flight out to Yambaitok. Alright, let's flip our taxi light on and get going. We're going to go ahead and call up for our flight following, which is our SAR here in Papua New Guinea. If I can get them on our VHF first. Madang 1267 November Tango Kilo taxi.
November Tango Kilo Madang, go ahead.
Morning, November Tango Kilo taxi, Wewak, Yambaitok 1 POV.
November Tango Kilo time check 2203, no traffic reported.
No traffic, November Tango Kilo. All stations, Wewak 1267 November Tango Kilo, be back taxiing runway 10 for departure to the south, not above 9,000. Those birds out of here. Alright, no traffic, but I'm going to check anyways. I don't see anybody on the right. I don't see anybody on the left. We'll back taxi on runway 10, and our outbound track today will be 164. Now that we're on the runway, strobe on, landing light on, and we'll put our taxi light into pulse mode, and it just makes it pulse back and forth. It's supposed to help with the birds and make us more visible, but I don't know. Alright, they'll give us our area QNH here shortly, but I'm going to go ahead and put up my local QNH, which is the altimeter setting, at 20 feet above the ground, or more or less just 0. So 1012 is our altimeter setting for this morning. And that way, if anybody else does come in, and more than likely they'll be asking what the local QNH is, I can give that to them. Alright, normally I do my checklist stuff before I get on the runway, but there's nobody here today. So fuel caps and selectors are good, our controls are good. We'll turn Betty off because we're going to be heading over these mountaintops fairly close to them on the way out of here. Pitches and instruments, 9,000. 9,000 on the our altitude going out. We are 6,300 pounds today, so rotate at 59. And we'll set up our VREF in case we did have to come back in for any reason, emergency or whatnot. 69 knots. Flaps are set at 20, indicated and verified. Our trim has been set up, if we're not 50 knots, by the 1,000 foot marker. We'll full reverse, heavy braking, flaps up. If we're going off, cut off, pull off, and shut off. And crack our doors and brace if we can. And after takeoff, pitch for 85, consider EPL, consider feather, left hand turn immediately to the beach. Full flaps, hit my emergencies, crack my doors, masters off, and if I can remember, give them a call. Alright, ignition, lights, and inlet are done. Our taxi is complete. We're 27 degrees out today, so we'll go up to 25 at sea level, 1680. So 50 pound of torque below that, because as we start rolling it's going to increase because the air is flowing in now into the intake. So we'll go 1630 for 1680, rotate 59. So ignition condition, pushing it up really slowly so it doesn't have a spike, and our ITT 20, fuel and harnesses complete. Alright, 1630 for 1680. Airspeed is alive. Continuing, there's 50. There's 59 and rotate. So this morning we've got storms all off the coast, about 5 miles or so. It's been lightning and thundering all morning long. I looked at my Windy app this morning just to verify that they're not going to be coming in at all today, just because I have to go out to Yambaitok and come out of there with my absolute minimum fuel back here, because we have a pretty steep takeoff penalty out of there, 360 kg. We have to reduce our loading by. We've got 6, 7 guys coming out of there, so I want to be able to get out of there as light as I can. Looked at my windy app. It's what we use here for our weather, for our forecasting, because there is nothing here in Papua New Guinea. So it looks like all the rain and stuff is just going to stay out there and just kind of stay along the coast, is which it does here a lot. All right, so I've already reduced my flaps. I'm going to reduce my prop down to 2,000 RPM, and which brings my ITT right at 720 degrees Celsius. Make my right hand turn out, put my engine inlet back to normal. My igniters are turned off. And climbing on course, I'm going to go ahead and call up my flight following, let them know when I departed. Madang 1267, November Tango Kilo departure.
November Tango Kilo, Madang, go ahead.
November Tango Kilo departed WEWAC, time 08, tracking 163, on climb 9,000, estimating Yambaitok 43.
November Tango Kilo, on climb 9,000, air QNH 1011, at Yambaitok, colon HS 6538.
1011-653 at Yambaitok, November Tango Kilo. For today's climb out, I'm going to just climb out right around 115 knots. It's going to give me my fastest climb as far as my speed goes. I don't really care if I get to my altitude as fast, but it's just going to get me out there a little bit quicker. And then what we're going to be doing is we have our ITT set up right as close as we can to 720 and our prop at 2,000 RPM. And at sea level, we're also watching our torque, because our torque can go into the yellow at sea level pretty easily if you just get right at 740. You get over a tiny bit over 740, now your torque's also going to be going into the yellow. But the higher we go up, we're not going to be as concerned about our torque getting into the yellow. We're just going to be concerned about our ITT. I've got a weather report out here at Yambaitok this morning. They say it's beautiful weather, which is great. Many times in the morning they have fog that runs down the valley and just kind of goes over the end of the airfield for maybe 15 minutes, and then it blows off and it's clear for another half hour and another one comes in. So I'm really hoping that when we get out there today that it's perfectly clear and I don't have to worry about anything, because today I have brought out my minimum fuel, my VFR fuel, to get out there and get back with my reserve. So I thought I'd go over our autopilot. We have the S-Tech autopilot here in this Kodiak. This is the Kodiak 100, the very first version. So I think the newest ones out there have, I believe, might be wrong, but I think they have the new Garmin autopilots, which are pretty awesome. This one works fairly well. The yaw dampener on it doesn't work at all, really. It just sits there and sways back and forth. But let me show you how I set it up. So today I have it in heading mode. I don't even have my altitude select on or my vertical speed button clicked at all, just because it doesn't have a airspeed hold for climb. It just has the vertical speed. So if you set it up for 800, like we're going right now, like 700 feet per minute, it's just going to hold that vertical speed going up, but then your airspeed is going to continue to go down the higher you go up. So it's super annoying to have to click it down and keep watching your airspeed as you're climbing up to keep messing around with that. So I just fly on my heading mode or my nav, which is going to basically fly the magenta line, your course going out wherever you're going. So I just do it on heading. I set up my trim and trim it out for whatever speed I'm going at. Today I'm at 113 knots climbing out. And it's just going to hold that really, really well. Once I get really close to my actual course, then I'm going to hit my nav button. I'm going to hit it twice, and then what it's going to do is it's going to connect in with my course. But what I like to do is I like to wait until basically I'm on the course myself. I twist my heading button so that I can really, really slowly get into it. Especially when I have passengers, I want my flights to be as smooth as possible, just so that when they fly with me, they love flying with me because it's a really smooth flight. I don't want to do any jerking around, and I don't like setting up the autopilot far out for nav, because once you get within like a quarter of a mile or an eighth of a mile or something, it just jerks the plane and wants to connect to your course at a 30-degree angle, and it's super irritating. So I basically just fly all the way until I'm connected with my course and slowly even out, and then once I'm on the course, then I hit my nav, and then it just connects with it. You can see in my altimeter is flashing right now. Once we go through our 7,000 feet, we have it set up on our GPS as a reminder that we need to switch to our area QNH. So if we have our local QNH for the airport, or our altimeter setting for the actual airport, we set that up, but then once we go out, they give us an area QNH that they have all the airplanes flying on in this area, and she's already given me that this morning as 1011. I also set up my secondary altimeter setting over here in case I were to lose both of my computers. All right, we've got 500 feet more to climb. So as I get 200 feet before my desired altitude, you're gonna hear a big, like, buzzer. That's gonna let me know that I'm 200 feet before my desired altitude at that point. I'm going to hit my vertical speed and my altitude select at the same time, and then it will level off right at 900,000. So that was the buzzer letting me know I'm 200 feet to go. So I'm gonna hit my vertical speed and my altitude select, and now it's gonna just go ahead and level off. All right, we are leveled off at 900,000 now. I'm gonna go ahead and bring my power lever back, which is bringing my torque back to 1250 for my cruise torque. And my prop doesn't change at all when I bring my torque back, it just remains at 2000 RPM. And then my ITT just also comes back, it's below 700. So once it starts getting over 700, then I'm now limited by my ITT rather than my torque. So if I was cruising at like maybe 14,000 feet, then I would be limited to my ITT of 700, and my torque would probably be around maybe 1100 or something. We're gonna go ahead and bring up the strip chart for Yambaitok. So Yambaitok is 510 feet elevation. So when we get closer, I'm gonna set my altitude select at 1,500 feet from my pattern altitude. We'll be landing runway 21. It's a one-way airstrip going right into a mountain, so we're only going to be landing on runway 21. The length's 527 meters and a 0.7% slope. And it says it's uncertain of the slope direction. It's pretty much flat. That's less than 1%, so it really doesn't even apply. But there is, for takeoff though, there's a side slope at the top of the runway, which is a huge pain because what happens is, as you start, your plane's wanting to turn off to the left already from all of your torque and all your P factors, and then you also have a side slopes, so you're kind of just tapping the right brake as you're taking off, which is just slowing you down, and there's already a pretty big penalty here, so, and they don't cut the grass very well out here. So it's fairly short at just 530 meters, and a lot of times we'll have kind of quartering tailwinds a little bit on takeoff. Once we get past like the 3/4 mark, it opens up once you see what I'm talking about once we get there. So I'll brief my go around once we get there, but this is just gonna be before the river. We're gonna make a left-hand turn out and just continue on up the valley. It shows actually a 180, but we're just gonna continue on up the valley because it goes a long ways. And then eventually we'll turn back around and enter into the circuit again. We're 10 minutes out now and 28 miles to run. I've already got set up my descent angle, so Betty's gonna let me know my top of descent here shortly. And what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and put my altitude select down to my pattern altitude of 1,500, and that's just gonna bring all of those boxes all the way down. All right, so I have it set up for 800 feet per minute on my descent, and what that does is you can see that little cyan arch right there, and that lets me know where I'm going to reach my altitude. Whatever I have into my altitude select, it's going to show me where I'm going to get to that altitude. So if I'm past it, I'm just going to increase my vertical speed to 800 now, and it's going to bring that little blue cyan back to where I want it. Yes, flying with the G1000 definitely does make things a lot easier. When I flew the GA8, the Airvan here, I had to do all these calculations in my head and all this stupid math. And when I first started doing, I was also doing it with this because I didn't know about that feature. And now I just set it up and it's just so much easier. So it frees up my mind for thinking about more important things like flying. All right, now that we're coming in, I'm going to go ahead and start up my checklist. Our selectors and our brakes are good. We're going to turn Betty off because we're going to be coming into low terrain, and she'll just say terrain pull up the whole time. We're going to head over to our aux page. We're at 6,150. We're going to be landing in 7 minutes, so we'll just bring our weight down to 6,100 because it doesn't tell us our landing weight for these bush locations. At regular, like Wewak, Goroka, it will actually tell us our estimated landing weight. But at these places it doesn't. So 6,100 down here gives us a VREF of 68 knots. So we'll set up our VREF at 68 knots. Our lights and inlet, we're now 20 miles out. We can flip our pulse light on and our landing light on. We'll do our bypass here shortly. We're over 140, and someone asked in a comment a few videos ago why we wait till 140 before we do our bypass, because it's actually not in the Kodiak airplane flight manual. But the reason being is because years ago when we first got them, we just do it at any speed, and one of the little push rods that actually move the actuator that actually moves the bypass got bent, and we thought it might be because we are going too fast, so that's why we just have a company SOP that says under 140 is when we can do our engine inlet, and that's why we do that. If you're looking to find that, you'll never find it. We'll do inlet here shortly. Our abort, like I said earlier, just before the river, we're going to power up 20 degrees of flaps, pitch for 73 knots, and make our left-hand turn out up the valley. Super easy. It's just all pretty much the same altitude, so it can be really like a really late go around if we need to. All stations, Yambaitok 126.7, Kodiak November Tango Kilo 10 miles to the north, passing 4,700 on descent circuit, Yambaitok time 41. All right, we're also going to do 128.5 because we're kind of right on the border for that VHF frequency as well. All stations, Yambaitok 128.5, Kodiak November Tango Kilo 10 miles to the north, passing 4,200. Yambaitok circuit 41. All right, we're 8 miles out. I'm going to go ahead and set my autopilot back up to heading mode so I can hit my OBS button and twist this to runway 210. And as you can see, it puts this really cool line on the screen, and that lets me know the direction of the runway at all times. Because a lot of our patterns are not quite standard little nice square rectangle boxes, it's kind of going at a different angles into different little ridges and stuff, and sometimes you can't really see the runway at any time, so sometimes it's down in the jungle, trees are high, so it's really nice just to be able to see that and actually look on my OBS and see exactly my parallel and my perpendicular with the runway. So also what I do is autopilot off. I'll turn my heading bug perpendicular. So this one doesn't really matter because at no point will we actually be perpendicular to the runway. But that way, if I can fly directly perpendicular to the runway really easily without even seeing the runway at any time. So nice little things you can set up and actually utilize what the G1000 will allow you to do really easily. All right, 4 miles out. I'm going to go ahead and call up my SAR. I can land for sure, so. Madang 6538, November Tango Kilo in the circuit, Yambaitok, cancel SAR.
November Tango Kilo, Yambaitok, watch terminated.
November Tango Kilo. All stations, Yambaitok, November Tango Kilos in the circuit, Yambaitok. All stations 128.5, November Tango Kilos in the circuit, Yambaitok. Approaching 140, so we're going to go ahead and go bypass. That is complete. Prop and harness are complete. Our SAR is complete. We're going to 1,500 for our pattern altitude. Our advisory just letting us know that we are now more or less on the circuit. So below 138 knots, 10 degrees of flaps for our first notch. I'm going to fly around the valley right over top of it. That way I can look down, get a good indication of what the ground is. They just sent me in a thing saying it was nice out, but I was just in here last week.
500.
It looks like it's dry. It doesn't look like they've cut it anymore. They seem to wait until it's super high, and then they have to cut the whole airstrip by hand with bush knives. It's a huge, huge job, and that's why they don't do it very often. And then they just burn off all the remaining grass clippings. All right, flaps to go. 68 final, 78 on base, 88 on downwind. There's 150 feet yet to go for our altitude for our circuit. So I have my torque right now at 470, 450. So usually in the circuit, if you want around 100 knots, set it up around 800 foot-pound of torque, and then kind of on approach and stuff, I'm going to set it up usually around 400 to 450 if you are flying the simulator. All right, we're shooting for 88 knots and around 1,300 feet by that hill in front of us. 20 degrees of flaps and slowing to 88 knots. So in my whole circuit, I'm going to be pitching for my airspeed and my power for my altitude. So if I want my speed to adjust,
500.
Pitch for it and then adjust with my power lever for my altitude to recorrect for whatever I just adjusted for. All right, so I'm going to go out 1 point, basically just past this little hill right in front of me, 1.3 nautical miles. Now I'm going to go, actually I think it's 1.4. There's 1.4. I'm going to go ahead and turn my base, which is kind of an oblique base into final. It's going to be a really short final. And we're looking for 900 feet at a specific tree is where I'll turn my final. So I'm looking for 78 knots at this point. Full flaps, checklist is complete. Now I'm going to a specific tree at 900, doesn't really matter, it's usually 900 feet, so I'm not going to worry about my altimeter setting if it is off or anything. I just know I need to go to that tree. All right, we're going to turn final in the 68 knots. All right, turning final. On to 68 knots. We have 5 knots off of our left. There's 68 knots. 150 on the descent. 4 knots off the left. All right, we're committed to land. All right, well, it looks like I better be staying in the center when I take off. The grass is high everywhere else. I'm gonna have to talk to them about getting that cut because that's not going to work in the future for us. Anyways, guys, this is Yambaitok. Thanks for coming along on this flight. If you did enjoy it, please give this video a thumbs up. It really does help my channel grow. It lets YouTube know that this is interesting content. Leave a comment below. That really does let YouTube know this is great. So also, please subscribe if this is the kind of content that you guys enjoy watching. Check out my Patreon page. I'll link a link down below if you guys are interested in doing some of these kind of flights on your home sim. I do post a lot of those kind of details as well. So again, thank you for taking the time to watch, and have a wonderful day. All right, because we're on a side slope here, I'm going to go ahead and turn my fuel off up here. 20 degrees of flaps. Shut down. Get our air turned off. Lights all off. Fuel pump off. Aux bus, generator, alternator. And cut off. And feather. Alright guys, see you next time.